My lawyer wife cheated and tried to use her legal knowledge to screw me in the divorce. I found out she was committing notary fraud on the side. I reported her to the Bar Association. She was disbarred and works at a diner now. All right, Reddit. Buckle up because this one's a wild ride involving a cheating spouse, legal manipulation, and the most satisfying karma I've ever witnessed firsthand. Happened over the past 18 months, and I'm finally at a place where I can talk about it without wanting to punch a wall. My buddy told me this belongs on the internet. So here we are. I, 34 male, work as an industrial equipment inspector for a company that deals with manufacturing plants across the Midwest. Basically, I travel to factories and make sure their machinery isn't going to explode or kill someone. It's decent money, solid benefits, and I get to work independently most of the time, which suits me just fine. Started in this field right out of college with a mechanical engineering degree and worked my way up from entry-level technician to senior inspector over the past 12 years. The job requires a sharp eye for detail and zero tolerance for cutting corners. I spend my days examining conveyor systems, hydraulic presses, industrial robotics, and packaging equipment. Every inspection gets documented with photos, measurements, and compliance reports that could hold up in court if something goes wrong. One mistake on my end could mean someone loses a limb or worse, so I take the work seriously. The company trusts me because I've never signed off on anything questionable just to keep a client happy. My typical inspection day starts at 6 a.m. when I arrive at whatever plant I'm assigned to. First thing is reviewing the equipment maintenance logs and comparing them against manufacturer specifications. Then I'm climbing ladders, crawling under machinery, checking hydraulic pressure readings, measuring wear patterns on moving parts. Everything gets photographed from multiple angles with detailed notes about what I'm seeing and why it matters. By the end of the day, I've usually walked 5 or 6 miles around the plant floor and generated a 20-page report. The travel schedule means I'm on the road about 3 weeks out of every month, hitting different plants across Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, and Illinois. Usually gone Monday through Thursday, home for long weekends. It's not glamorous, but the pay is solid, and I genuinely enjoy the work. There's something satisfying about finding a potential failure point before it becomes a catastrophic problem. I met Rebecca 7 years ago through a mutual friend's wedding. She was 3 years into practicing family law, already making a name for herself at a mid-sized firm downtown. Smart as hell, confident, had this whole power professional thing going that honestly impressed me. She wore these perfectly tailored suits and could argue her way out of anything. I found that attractive at the time. Should have been my first warning sign. Our first conversation happened at the wedding reception. I was sitting at a table with a bunch of people I barely knew, doing the awkward small talk thing when Rebecca sat down next to me. She'd just come from the bar with some complicated drink that probably cost $15. We got to talking and somehow ended up discussing liability insurance of all things. Turned out she was representing a client in a workplace injury case and wanted to pick my brain about equipment safety standards. Most people's eyes glaze over when I talk about OSHA regulations and machinery compliance. Rebecca asked detailed questions and actually remembered what I said. She wanted to know about inspection protocols. What kind of documentation would hold up in court? How expert witnesses evaluate equipment failures. We talked for probably an hour about hydraulic press accidents and conveyor system malfunctions, while everyone else at our table was getting hammered and dancing to bad DJ music. We exchanged numbers that night. She texted me 3 days later asking if I wanted to grab coffee and continue the conversation about industrial safety standards. I thought she was joking, but she was dead serious. We met at this place downtown near her office. She brought a legal pad and took notes while I explained the difference between preventative maintenance and corrective maintenance. Looking back, I should have realized she was using me for free expert consultation, but at the time I thought it was cute that she found my boring job interesting. That coffee date turned into dinner the next week, then drinks at a wine bar the week after that. Then suddenly we were seeing each other twice a week, and I was spending weekends at her apartment. She lived in this nice high-rise downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows and actual adult furniture, instead of the second-hand stuff most people our age had. The place looked like it came straight out of a home design magazine. Rebecca came from old money. Her dad, Gerald, ran some investment fund that managed retirement accounts for executives and professional athletes. Her mom, Catherine, sat on charity boards and hosted fundraising galas. They lived in this massive colonial in the suburbs with a 3-car garage, professionally landscaped everything, and a pool house that was bigger than most people's actual houses. Meeting them for the first time felt like stepping into a different tax bracket. Her childhood bedroom was still exactly how she'd left it when she went to college. Queen bed with an expensive mattress, matching furniture, built-in bookshelves full of hardcovers, and a walk-in closet. There were photos of her at various equestrian competitions throughout high school. Apparently, she'd been big into competitive horseback riding, which explained the trophies lining one shelf. The whole setup probably cost more than I'd made in my first year working. Despite the privileged background, Rebecca worked her tail off in law school. Top 10% of her class at Ohio State, law review editor, summer internships at major firms in Cleveland and Cincinnati. She actually earned her success instead of coasting on daddy's connections. That mattered to me because I grew up middle class, where nothing got handed to you. My parents were both public school teachers who saved for years just to afford family vacations. I paid for college with scholarships and part-time jobs fixing equipment at the university physical plant. Rebecca respected that hustle, or at least I thought she did at the time. We got married after dating for 2 years. Nothing crazy expensive. Her parents offered to pay for some elaborate affair at a country club with 300 guests and an open bar that would have cost more than a decent car. We both agreed to keep it reasonable. Ended up with about 80 guests. Nice venue at a historic inn outside Columbus. Decent catering that didn't break the bank. I thought we were on the same page about not needing flashy displays of wealth. Looking back, maybe she just didn't want to waste daddy's money on marrying someone she considered temporary. The wedding itself was actually pretty great. Perfect weather in early June, ceremony outdoors under these massive oak trees, reception in a restored barn that had been converted into an event space. Her family invited their usual crowd of lawyers and fund managers and charity board members. My family brought teachers and union workers and people who drove pickup trucks instead of BMWs. Two completely different worlds colliding. But it worked out fine. Everyone had fun, nobody caused drama, and we left for our honeymoon in the Florida Keys feeling like we'd started something real. First few years were solid. We bought a 3-bedroom ranch house in a decent neighborhood about 20 minutes from downtown. Needed work but had good bones. Solid foundation, newer roof, updated electrical. Got it for under market value because the previous owners were divorcing and desperate to sell. Ironic considering how things ended up. Rebecca made partner at her firm faster than anyone in their history, just 6 years from associate to full partner. Usually takes 8 to 10 years if you're lucky. She billed crazy hours, won difficult cases, brought in new clients. The firm specialized in high net worth divorces and custody battles. She represented doctors, business owners, executives going through messy splits. Her billable rate went from $200 an hour to $450 an hour in the span of 3 years. I got promoted to senior inspector with a territory covering 5 states. Meant better pay, more responsibility, and unfortunately, more travel. But I liked the work, and my boss trusted me with the complex inspections that required extra attention. We were both climbing our respective ladders, and it felt like we were building something together. The house became our project. Spent weekends painting rooms every color Rebecca picked from those sample cards at Home Depot. Installed new light fixtures in every room because she hated the old ones. Argued about whether the kitchen needed a backsplash. She said yes. I said it was fine as is. She won, and we spent a Saturday tiling. Redid the master bathroom with new vanity, updated fixtures, and one of those rainfall shower heads that uses twice as much water as a normal shower, but feels amazing. Rebecca insisted on hiring professionals for the big stuff, but let me handle the smaller improvements. I built custom shelving for her home office using plans I found online and wood from the local hardware store. Took me 3 weekends, but they turned out perfect. Floor-to-ceiling shelves that fit her law books and case files. Refinished the deck out back, power washed and restained the whole thing, replaced some rotted boards. Built raised garden beds that Rebecca claimed she wanted to use for vegetables, but never actually planted anything in. She picked out furniture that actually matched instead of the random garbage I'd accumulated as a bachelor. Couch that coordinated with the rug, dining table with chairs that came as a set, bedroom furniture from an actual furniture store instead of wherever I'd found my old stuff. The place looked like adults lived there instead of college students with jobs. We fell into a routine. Friday date nights at different restaurants around town. We'd pick a new place every week and try to work our way through the local food scene. Sunday morning farmers market runs when I was home, buying fresh produce and homemade bread from vendors who set up downtown. Occasional weekend trips when our schedules aligned. Hocking Hills for hiking, Cleveland for museums, Chicago when we wanted a real city experience. Nothing Instagram-worthy, but it felt real and sustainable. Like we were building an actual life instead of performing one for social media. We talked about kids eventually, maybe in a few years once Rebecca felt more established at the firm. Discussed upgrading to a 4-bedroom house when that happened. Made plans for the future like you do when you think the future is actually going to happen the way you imagine it. Rebecca's work schedule got brutal after she made partner. 60-hour weeks minimum, sometimes 80 during big cases. She'd come home after I was already in bed and leave before I woke up. Weekends disappeared into depositions, client meetings, and court prep. I understood. She'd worked toward this her entire career. Making partner at a law firm is basically like reaching the end boss in a video game. The work doesn't get easier, it just gets more important, and the stakes get higher. Didn't love it, but I got it. My job required travel and long days too. Sometimes I'd be at a plant until 8 p.m. finishing an inspection that turned up more problems than expected. She understood my schedule, so I tried to understand hers. The distance grew slowly. She stopped asking about my day, stopped planning date nights, stopped initiating anything that wasn't on her meticulously organized calendar. When I'd suggest dinner or a movie, she'd say she was too tired or had work to finish. Fair enough, except she somehow had energy for happy hours with colleagues and networking events. The intimacy dried up completely. I'm not just talking physical stuff, though that disappeared too. I'm talking about those little moments of connection. Morning coffee together, quick texts during the day, falling asleep watching TV on the couch. All of it gone. She started sleeping in the guest room during the week, claiming my early morning alarm for work trips disturbed her sleep schedule. I travel for work about 40% of the time, 3 or 4 days on the road, then home for a week or two, depending on what inspections get scheduled. My schedule's been consistent for years. I send her my travel calendar at the beginning of each month. She knew exactly when I'd be gone and when I'd be home. Looking back, that predictability probably made her life a lot easier when she decided to start messing around. About 18 months ago, I noticed some changes. She started hitting the gym at 5 a.m. before work, got a new hairstyle from some expensive salon, updated her entire wardrobe, bought perfume that cost more per ounce than gold. At first, I thought maybe she was just taking better care of herself with the stress of work. Didn't occur to me she was dolling herself up for someone else. Then came the phone behavior. Always face down on the table. Always taking it to the bathroom. Changed her password without mentioning it. Used to be our wedding anniversary. When I asked about it casually, she said the firm required new security protocols for client confidentiality, plausible enough that I didn't push it. She started working late more often, coming home at 9 or 10 p.m. with wet hair smelling like fancy shampoo. Said the firm installed a gym and locker room for partners to use? Sure, makes sense. Except I'd visited her office before for lunch meetings and never noticed any gym. When I mentioned swinging by to grab dinner with her one night, she got weirdly defensive. She started mentioning Grant more frequently. Grant from the competing law firm. Grant who went to the same law school. Grant. The name started making me irrationally annoyed just from hearing it so much. But I'm not usually the jealous type. People have colleagues they get along with. Except something felt fundamentally wrong, and I couldn't quite articulate what it was. The real kicker came when I got home early from a site inspection that got canceled. This was about 14 months ago, middle of a Wednesday afternoon around 2 p.m. Was supposed to be at a plant in Michigan, running a 3-day inspection on their new packaging line. Got there Tuesday morning and found out the equipment hadn't even been installed yet. Some delay with the shipping company meant the machinery was sitting at a dock in Cleveland instead of on the factory floor where it was supposed to be. Plant manager was pissed, but what could we do? Rescheduled for the following month. I called my boss, updated him on the situation, and headed home. 4-hour drive from Flint back to Columbus. Listened to podcasts the whole way, stopped once for gas and a sandwich, pulled into my driveway around 2:15 p.m. on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon, thinking I'd surprise Rebecca with an early return. My truck's in the driveway and I walk into my own house through the garage like I always do. Set my inspection bag down by the door. That's when I see them. Men's dress shoes by the front entrance that definitely aren't mine. Expensive leather Oxfords. Probably Italian. Too small to be mine by at least 2 sizes. Just sitting there on the mat like they owned the place. Like whoever kicked them off felt comfortable enough in my house to leave his shoes lying around. I stood in the entryway for a solid minute trying to process what I was seeing. My brain went through every possible explanation. Maybe Rebecca invited a colleague over to work on a case. Maybe it's her brother, though he lives 2 states away. Maybe it's a delivery guy, though, that makes 0 sense. Every explanation sounded stupid even as I thought it. Heard voices upstairs. Laughter. My wife's laugh, the one I hadn't heard directed at me in months. Then more voices, talking quietly, then silence. That specific kind of silence that happens when people who are doing something they shouldn't be doing suddenly realize they might get caught. Like the air pressure changed in the entire house. Walked upstairs. Each step felt like it took an hour. Part of me wanted to turn around and leave, pretend I never came home, preserve whatever illusion of a marriage we still had. The other part of me needed to know for sure, Needed to see it with my own eyes instead of spending the rest of my life wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing. Got to the master bedroom door. It was closed but not locked. Opened it. There's Rebecca scrambling to button her blouse, her hair a mess, her face flushed. And there's some guy I'd never seen before trying to locate his pants while wearing nothing but boxer briefs and dress socks. Both of them frozen like deer in headlights. Like if they stayed perfectly still, maybe I'd mistake them for furniture and leave. The guy looked about my age, maybe slightly younger, fit, well-groomed, wearing one of those expensive automatic watches that cost more than most people's cars. Rolex or Omega or some other brand I'd never be able to afford. Had that whole slick corporate look that probably played well in conference rooms and closing arguments. The kind of guy who definitely uses the word synergy unironically. This isn't what it looks like, Rebecca says. Classic opening line. Like there's some other explanation for why there's a half-naked stranger in our bedroom at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. I just stood there looking at both of them. Didn't yell, didn't grab him, didn't punch anybody. Just stared. My inspection training kicked in. Observe, document, assess, report. Emotions came later. Right now, I was gathering data. Pretty sure it's exactly what it looks like, I said. Voice calm. Flat. Like I was discussing machinery specifications instead of watching my marriage explode in real time. The guy, later found out his name was Grant, which explained so much, tried to do the whole man-to-man routine. Extended his hand like we were meeting at a networking event, instead of him standing in my bedroom wearing my wife's shame. Look, I think we should all sit down and talk about this like adults. I looked at his extended hand, looked at his face, looked at Rebecca, who'd managed to button her shirt, but was now just standing there like a malfunctioning robot. Looked back at Grant. Get out of my house, I said. Calm, quiet. But something in my tone made it clear this wasn't a negotiation. Maybe it was the complete lack of emotion in my voice. Maybe it was the look on my face. But Grant grabbed his stuff and basically sprinted down the stairs like the building was on fire. Heard the front door slam. Heard a car start in the driveway. Heard tires squeal slightly as he peeled out of the neighborhood. Then silence again. Just me and Rebecca standing in what used to be our bedroom, looking at each other across about 10 feet of carpet that felt like the Grand Canyon. Rebecca went into full lawyer mode immediately. Didn't cry, didn't apologize, went straight into damage control presentation mode. Started rattling off explanations about how the marriage had been struggling for months, how she'd been unhappy, how we'd grown apart, like she was presenting a case to a jury, instead of explaining why there was a strange dude half naked in our bedroom on a Wednesday afternoon. The words came out smooth and practiced, like she'd rehearsed this speech. Probably had. She's a family lawyer. She's seen 1,000 of these conversations. She knew the script, hit all the talking points. Emotional distance, different priorities, nobody's fault really, just grew apart. Made it sound reasonable and inevitable instead of what it actually was, which was her choosing to blow up our marriage because she wanted to hook up with some corporate douchebag. How long? I asked. Cut right through her monologue. She hesitated. First time she looked actually uncomfortable instead of just annoyed that I wasn't playing along with her narrative. That's not important right now. What's important is that we figure out how to move forward in a way that's fair to both of us. How? Long. I repeated each word separately. She sighed like I was being unreasonable by wanting basic information. Like I was the one making this difficult. 6 months. But Sam, you have to understand. You're never home. You're always traveling for work. I got lonely and Grant was there and I held up my hand. Stop. Just stop. 6 months. Half a year of lying. Half a year of coming home to me and pretending everything was fine while she was sleeping with someone else. Half a year of me thinking we just needed to work on communication, when actually she was busy working on destroying everything we'd built. I want a divorce, I said. Simple. Direct. No room for negotiation. She actually looked relieved, like she'd been worried I'd fight for the marriage, or beg her to stay or make some dramatic scene. I think that's the right call. And Sam, I want you to know that I'll make this as easy as possible. I'll be fair about everything. That sentence right there should have set off every alarm in my head, but I was too angry and humiliated and shocked to process it properly. When a lawyer who just got caught cheating promises to be fair, what they mean is they're going to use every trick in the book to get what they want while making you think you're getting a good deal. Here's the thing about my job. I document everything. Photos, notes, timestamps, detailed observations. It's how I protect myself from liability. You miss one detail on an inspection and someone can sue you, or worse, someone gets hurt. That habit bleeds into my personal life, whether I mean it or not. I'd been documenting Rebecca's weird behavior for about 2 months, without really knowing why. Started when I noticed the credit card statements didn't match her explanations. She'd say she was working late at the office, but there'd be charges from restaurants across town. Took screenshots of her changed location sharing settings. She turned hers off in late November. Said it was draining her battery. Photographed credit card statements showing charges at hotels during times she claimed to be working late. Not seedy motels. Nice places downtown with room service charges. Collected receipts from various places that didn't match her stories. Little things that individually seemed explainable, but together formed a pretty clear picture. Checked into a budget motel that night. Called my brother Eric around 10 p.m. He's a project manager for a commercial construction outfit. I just said, Rebecca cheated. Found her with some guy this afternoon. I need advice. Dead silence for about 5 seconds. Then, holy shit, are you okay? Eric's immediate response. Don't sign anything without reading it 3 times and having someone else look at it. She's a lawyer. She's going to lawyer the hell out of you. Next morning, I called out sick from work. Spent 2 hours researching divorce attorneys in Columbus who specialized in cases involving legal professionals. Found a guy named Robert Chen who'd been practicing family law for 30 years. Called his office at 9 a.m. Explained my situation. Wife is a family lawyer. Caught her cheating yesterday. She's already talking divorce. Got an emergency consultation that afternoon. Robert's office was in an older building downtown. Nothing fancy. But the guy himself? Sharp as hell. Mid-50s, completely bald, wearing reading glasses. Had this demeanor like he'd seen every trick in the book twice. Let me guess, Robert said after I finished. She's already got paperwork drawn up and is pushing for a quick, uncontested divorce? Haven't heard from her yet today, besides a text asking when I'd be coming back for my things. He leaned back in his chair. You will. Probably within 48 hours. She's going to present it as the mature, reasonable option. Keep things amicable. Avoid dragging it out. Save money on legal fees. But what she means is she wants you to roll over so she can get what she wants without a fight. Lawyers who get divorced either handle it professionally or they use every weapon in their arsenal. Your wife sounds like the second type. Made sense. I wrote him a retainer check. Walked out feeling like at least I had someone in my corner who knew the game Rebecca was about to play. Right on schedule, Rebecca texted that afternoon. Said she'd had her firm draw up divorce papers, and we could meet to discuss terms. She wanted to keep things amicable and straightforward to avoid dragging it out. Translation. She wanted me to roll over so she could get what she wanted without a fight. I forwarded the message to Robert. His response was one word. Yep. The papers arrived 3 days later via courier. Robert went through them with a fine-tooth comb while I sat there trying not to have a stroke. He kept shaking his head and making notes. After 20 minutes, he looked up. She wants the house, both cars, 60% of your retirement accounts, and she's claiming you owe her spousal support based on her projected lost earnings from the emotional distress of the divorce. What? Oh, it gets better. She's also claiming she made career sacrifices to support your travel schedule and therefore deserves compensation for those sacrifices. And there's a clause here that would prevent you from disclosing details of the marriage or divorce to anyone, including on social media. Can she do that? She can try. Will it hold up? Probably not most of it, but she's banking on you not wanting to fight it. She knows divorce litigation is expensive and time-consuming. She's hoping you'll just sign to make it go away. Not happening. I'd eat ramen for a year before I let her steamroll me like that. The next 6 weeks were brutal. Rebecca tried everything. Sent me these long emails about how hurt she was that I was being vindictive and stubborn by not accepting her terms. Had mutual friends reach out to convince me I was being unreasonable. Her mother even called me to say I was destroying Rebecca's reputation by dragging this out. Meanwhile, Robert was building our case. Subpoenaed phone records showing hundreds of texts and calls with Grant. Got credit card statements showing hotel rooms and expensive dinners. Documented every inconsistency in her claims about career sacrifices. Turned out those working late nights had been going on for way longer than 6 months. Rebecca didn't know I'd been keeping my own records. Every business trip I took, I had time-stamped documentation, hotel check-ins, site inspection reports, GPS data from my work truck. I could prove exactly where I was and when. Meanwhile, her location history showed her at Grant's apartment complex at least twice a week for the past 8 months. So much for 6 months. The kicker was when Rebecca tried to claim I'd been emotionally abusive and neglectful. Said my work schedule made her feel abandoned and that my controlling behavior had driven her to seek comfort elsewhere. Robert nearly laughed when he read that filing. She's throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, he said. Classic lawyer move when they don't have a strong position. But here's where it gets really interesting. During discovery, Robert requested all of Rebecca's financial records. Standard procedure in divorce cases. She fought it hard, claiming attorney-client privilege and work product protection. Robert pushed back. Her personal finances weren't covered by those protections. The judge agreed and ordered her to produce the documents. When they finally came through, something caught my eye immediately. I've been reading technical documents and compliance reports for 15 years. I know what proper documentation looks like. Rebecca's notary logs were a mess. See, she'd gotten her notary commission a few years back. Said it was useful for her practice since a lot of documents need notarization. Made sense at the time. What didn't make sense was the logs I was looking at now. There were documents notarized on dates when I knew for a fact she'd been out of state at a legal conference. I remembered because I'd had to reschedule a work trip to watch our neighbor's dog while she was gone. I checked my own calendar and work logs to confirm. She'd notarized 6 documents in Ohio on a Thursday, when she was definitely in Florida. Then I noticed more inconsistencies. Documents notarized at times when she'd been in court. I could cross-reference those with public court records. Signatures that looked nothing like the photocopies of IDs attached to the notarization records. Pages notarized for people who, according to a quick social media search, hadn't even been in Ohio during the dates listed. This wasn't sloppy record-keeping. This was fraud. I spent a week going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Found at least 30 instances of what looked like false notarization over a 3-year period. Documents notarized when she was provably somewhere else. Signatures notarized without the person being present. Dates that didn't match up with anything. Took everything to Robert. He went pale. "Do you know what you're looking at here?" he asked. "Notary fraud?" Notary fraud that could get her disbarred. This isn't a small thing, Sam. This is serious criminal activity. If even half of these are what they look like, she's been falsifying legal documents for years. What do I do with it? Robert leaned back and thought for a long moment. Officially, as your divorce attorney, I have to tell you that weaponizing this information in the divorce proceedings would be ethically questionable and potentially illegal. It could look like extortion if you threaten to report her unless she agrees to favorable terms. And unofficially? Unofficially, you have an obligation as a citizen to report suspected fraud to the appropriate authorities. The Ohio State Bar Association has a disciplinary board that investigates these things. What you do with this information outside the context of our divorce case is entirely up to you. The way he said it made his meaning crystal clear. This wasn't about the divorce anymore. This was about the law, and Rebecca had been breaking it. I took a few days to think about it. Wasn't trying to be vindictive or petty, but the more I looked at those documents, the angrier I got. She'd been cheating on me for months, trying to screw me in the divorce, and the whole time she'd been committing fraud that could have hurt innocent people. Some of those documents were real estate transactions. Others were powers of attorney. One was an affidavit related to a child custody case. She'd been falsifying notarizations on documents that affected people's lives, their homes, their kids, all because she was too lazy or busy to do her job properly. Made copies of everything. Organized it into a clear timeline with supporting documentation. Wrote a detailed report explaining each instance and why it appeared fraudulent. Included my own documentation proving she was elsewhere during some of the notarizations. Took me about 40 hours of work over 2 weeks, but I made it airtight. Submitted it to the Ohio State Bar Association's disciplinary board with a cover letter explaining that I'd discovered this during divorce proceedings and felt obligated to report it. Didn't mention anything about wanting revenge or being angry about the affair. Just laid out the facts and let them speak for themselves. Then I waited. The Bar Association moves slowly. They have to investigate, interview witnesses, review records, give the attorney a chance to respond. Took about 4 months before I heard anything. During that time, the divorce was still grinding forward. Rebecca had backed off some of her more aggressive demands after Robert made it clear we had phone records and location data. Wasn't going to be the quick, easy divorce she'd hoped for. She had no idea I'd reported her. Why would she? The Bar Association doesn't announce investigations publicly. They keep everything confidential until there's a formal finding. Then one day I got a call from Robert. "Did you report Rebecca to the Bar Association?" he asked. "Yeah, few months ago." "Why?" "Because she just filed an emergency motion to continue the divorce proceedings. Says she's under investigation and can't focus on the case right now. Her lawyer's asking for a 6-month delay." I couldn't help but smile. They're investigating her? According to the motion, yes. And from the sound of it, it's serious. She's lawyered up with a criminal defense attorney who specializes in bar complaints. The next few months were quiet on my end, but apparently hellish for Rebecca. I heard through mutual friends that she'd been suspended from practicing law pending the investigation. Her firm put her on leave. She hired a lawyer who cost more per hour than most people make in a day. I focused on work, moved into a rental house, started going to the gym consistently for the first time in years. Lost about 20 pounds and felt better than I had in ages. Wasn't even thinking about dating yet, but it felt good to have my life back under my own control. The Bar Association's findings came down about 8 months after I filed the complaint. They sustained almost every charge. Found that Rebecca had systematically falsified notarizations over a 3-year period, had notarized documents without witnesses present, had backdated notarizations, had notarized signatures for people she'd never met, the whole 9 yards. They disbarred her. Permanently. No chance of reinstatement. Also referred the matter to the county prosecutor for potential criminal charges, though I never heard if anything came of that. The divorce finally wrapped up 2 months later. With Rebecca's career in shambles and her bargaining position destroyed, she agreed to a much more reasonable settlement. I kept my retirement accounts, we split the proceeds from selling the house, and I got to keep my truck. No spousal support either direction. Rebecca's lawyer tried to argue that her disbarment wasn't relevant to the divorce settlement, but the judge disagreed. Hard to claim you need spousal support when you lost your law license through your own criminal behavior. Last I heard, Rebecca's working as a server at some diner outside Columbus. Her fancy law firm connections dried up pretty quick once word got around about why she was disbarred. Grant dumped her too. Apparently dating a disgraced lawyer wasn't as exciting as hooking up with a successful one. Her parents cut her off financially after the disbarment became public. Said she'd embarrassed the family. I ran into her about 6 months ago at a grocery store. She looked exhausted, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and a t-shirt instead of her power suits. She saw me, turned bright red, and tried to duck down another aisle. I just kept shopping, wasn't about to make a scene or gloat. Seeing her like that was enough. One of the documents she'd falsified was for a family who needed a power of attorney notarized so their elderly father could get medical care while they were out of state. Because Rebecca backdated it incorrectly, there was a legal dispute that delayed his care by 3 weeks. The family had to hire a lawyer to sort it out. Could have been avoided if she'd just done her job properly. Another one involved a young couple buying their first house. Rebecca notarized loan documents without them present, forged their signatures. The title company caught it during the closing process, and the whole deal almost fell apart. The couple had to scramble to find another property before their rate lock expired. Caused them thousands in additional costs and months of stress. That's what gets me. She wasn't just cheating on me or lying to get a better divorce settlement. She was actively harming people who trusted her to do her job, all so she could save time or avoid inconvenience. The affair was personal betrayal. The fraud was professional betrayal of everyone who relied on her. Rebecca's parents cut her off completely. Her mom resigned from 2 charity boards because people kept asking about her daughter. Her dad told people at his country club that Rebecca was dealing with personal issues and refused to elaborate. They sold their house in the suburbs and moved to Florida. Didn't even tell Rebecca they were leaving until the moving truck showed up. I ran into her about 6 months ago at a grocery store. She was wearing a diner uniform with a name tag, hair pulled back, no makeup, looking about 10 years older than she actually was. She saw me, turned bright red, and tried to duck down another aisle. Ran into her again 2 months later at the same store. This time, she didn't run. Just gave me this look like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. I nodded, kept walking. Had nothing to say to her. Found out later she's renting a studio apartment in a rough part of town. Drives a 15-year-old Honda with a dented bumper. Works doubles at the diner on weekends. Applied to be a paralegal at a few firms, but nobody would hire her once they ran a background check. One of her former clients sued her for malpractice related to the notary fraud. That case is still ongoing. Her insurance dropped her, so she's representing herself. Not going well from what I heard. The young couple whose house deal almost fell apart because of her forged notarizations? They ended up losing their dream home. The sellers went with another buyer. Couple had to rent for another year before they found something else. They're part of the class action suit against her now. The family with the elderly father she screwed over with the backdated power of attorney? He died before they could get the legal issues sorted out. They couldn't make medical decisions for him for 3 weeks because of her fraud. That's in the lawsuit, too. Rebecca tried to friend request me on social media about 4 months ago. Blocked her immediately. Her former firm hired someone to replace her. Young attorney, sharp, actually does her job properly. Been bringing in twice the clients Rebecca did. Firm's doing better without her. Update. The divorce is completely finalized. Rebecca tried to file for a modification of terms 3 months ago, claiming financial hardship. Judge denied it. Said she created her own hardship through criminal behavior. She's still at the diner. Saw her there when I stopped for coffee last month. She took my order, wouldn't make eye contact, left a normal tip and left. Wasn't trying to rub it in, just wanted coffee. Grant's wedding announcement ran in the paper 2 weeks ago. Big society wedding. His parents are loaded. Rebecca wasn't invited. Heard she called his new wife's office trying to warn her about him. Security escorted her out of the building. The paralegal certification she was trying to get. Denied. State Bar flagged her application. Turns out getting disbarred makes it really hard to work in legal adjacent fields. She's trying to get certified as a medical billing specialist now. Her apartment got broken into last month. Took her TV and laptop. Cops didn't recover anything. She posted about it on social media, asking for help replacing the stuff. Got 3 responses. Nobody donated. The class action lawsuit against her settled. She's paying monthly installments for the next 10 years. Most of her paycheck goes to that and rent. She's basically broke until she's 45. My girlfriend met her by accident at the grocery store. Rebecca tried to explain her side of the story. My girlfriend just walked away mid-sentence. Told me about it later and we laughed. No regrets about any of it. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.